see the world through other people's eyes. Now, empathy is a quality of character that can change the world.
Hi, it's Edwin Rutsch from the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy, and today I'm here with Lily, who's in Holland, and we're going to talk about how we can go about building a culture of empathy. And I'm saying Lily because I have difficulty pronouncing your name, so perhaps you could pronounce it for me.
The name is Lidewij.
Lidewij, and your last name?
Niezink.
Niezink. Oh, that's easier.
Yeah, that's
Niezink.
better.
I think I can do that one. Well, my last name is Rutsch.
Mm-hmm.
So in school, when always, they go down the list, say, who's here, and they would always get my last name wrong. So,
Rutsch is not common in English?
No, they say Rutsch or Rush or just everything except Rutsch, so I know how it is with the names.
Yeah.
So
we'll have to deal with it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining me. We know each other because you have a group on LinkedIn, which is the empathy group, and so you have a lot of interest in empathy and have been kind of working at promoting it and exploring it. And maybe we could just hear a little bit about your background and how you got interested in it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I come from a social psychology background. I've been studying social and organizational psychology, and then I did a PhD project on empathy, perspective taking, and helping behavior. So I finished my thesis in 2008, and it's called Considering Others in Need. On altruism, empathy, and perspective taking. So I did a lot of scientific work on empathy, and it's speaking to my heart. So I keep on going with it, both within science as well as outside of it. I'm a teacher in applied psychology at the moment. And I work for myself in this type of things. On LinkedIn, I try to gather a group of professionals and people interested in these topics to discuss and to explore more what empathy is and how, like you're doing, how we can promote empathy within society. And because I believe it's a wonderful quality that we could work on more than we're doing at the moment.
And on your Facebook page, I'm going to show your Facebook page. You have a picture of, it looks like a Buddha kind of looking inside of themselves, and then the larger universe out there, and they're kind of like looking inside themselves within the large universe. And it says on your Facebook page of political views, who needs politics when there is compassion, right? So
well,
maybe
that's it. Yeah, it's true. It's a picture from South Korea. I was in South Korea. When was it? 2009, I think. And South Korea has a big Buddhist tradition. And this is a little Buddhist. I found the picture so beautiful because exactly what you're saying. He's watching inside. It's a contemplative face. And there shines this happiness out of him, which is something I think is inherent to empathy and compassion as well. So I just love the picture.
Yeah, and your political views, who needs politics? Are you like an empathic, compassionate anarchist, or
Anarchist, baby. I just, yesterday were the French elections. My husband is French, so we've been following it. And I just posted a little picture on Facebook yesterday. I think it says, when nothing goes right, turn left. I guess that's it.
Okay. So one thing I wasn't quite clear on, you're actually doing workshops on empathy now. So this is like, how often do you do these, and what's kind of involved in those workshops?
Yeah, it's a project I'm doing with the voluntary fire department here in the Netherlands, and it's about empathic leadership. So I'm trying to take my knowledge out of science into this leadership dilemmas where you have to, motivate people, work with people, and find a balance in. Within the fire department, they call it repressive, but that I think in English has a bit of a different connotation. But finding a balance in both leading and following. And I think empathy is one of those skills to really get to the core of what people need, what people think, what people feel. And developing that quality is not that easy at first hand. That is, I've been writing a bit about it, about different perspectives and being focused on yourself. Even if you try to imagine what another person's feeling, you're still wondering, what would I feel if I were that other person? Which is a beautiful initial question to wonder. But you're still turning around your own ego there, around your own needs, your own feelings. So the next perspective is wondering, okay, that's what I feel, that's what I would need. But now I have to see with the other person if the person is also needing that same thing. And if not, then you have to use your empathic skills to try and figure out what the other person needs or feels or wants. So that's a bit what I'm doing in this empathic leadership project. It's a training, and I do it 5 times a month or so with different groups on different levels within the organization.
Yeah, well, what we kind of wanted to explore here is like, how do we create a culture of empathy and compassion, which is, how do we transform society from, where we are to raising the value of empathy and compassion. And sometimes I find creating like a metaphor of empathy is kind of helpful. Empathy is often seen as standing in someone else's shoes, looking through someone else's eyes. And for me, empathy is like a cornucopia, because it kind of opens this door to this rich experience of feelings that I can experience from others. So I was wondering if you have like a metaphor of what empathy is like to you.
Yeah, I've been thinking a bit about that, because it's difficult. It's true that this perspective taking part, as we discussed already, that definitely is a part of empathy. I came up with, maybe you could say empathy is the scratch on the vinyl. When you put the needle on the vinyl and it keeps turning and it keeps following the track inward, 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 inward. And then there's the scratch. And the scratch is very annoying, because it makes you stop listening to the music. It starts repeating itself. But it's also that moment of awareness, that moment that you think, oh, wait a moment. There's more than only turning in that same circle round and round. So I thought, yeah, that's the possibility in that moment to reopen yourself and to wonder again, hey, what's going on here? What's going on with the other person? I thought maybe, the scratch on the vinyl would be would be the metaphor.
Oh, I'm going to have to explore that a little bit to really kind of grasp that one, because when you were saying, following, because a needle follows, right? And some people have said that empathy is like a tracker. It's like, in the West, the Indians or the whatever were tracking animals or tracking another person. They look for the clues and they follow. And the needle is kind of that quality of tracking where someone is.
True.
So I'm kind of like tracking your emotions, seeing where you are. And I like the metaphor in that sense that it's kind of going deeper in, right? You're starting at the outside and you're kind of going in deeper and deeper and deeper. So that's kind of like what came up for me, but it seems like there's another quality that I'm not quite getting what that scratch
is doing there. Well, that stops you from going inward, as in, we have the vinyl, which is round, and I would say that the ego is the core of the vinyl. So we start at the outside, we follow the track, which is wonderful, but the track is spiraling inwards towards our own ego. And I believe that empathy is not the inward spiraling towards our own ego, but is the movement outwards towards others. What do others need? What do others feel? So the scratch is just, that one annoying little thing but that makes you stop and be aware of, oh, wait, I'm moving inwards again.
Oh, I see. So it's really the record is then like a metaphor of us.
Yes.
And if we're going into ourselves more and more, then suddenly there's something, and it kind of like, hey, there's another world out there. There's something we have to kind of look out to others.
That's what I meant.
Okay, now I'm getting it.
Thank you, Edwin.
Yeah. I like both metaphors. The other one was a whole different way of looking at it. So, so how does what is a culture of empathy look like? It's like there's scratches everywhere. Everybody's got scratches. I mean, there's a whole world of people out there, and they're all, a lot of scratching going on.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Maybe.
Scale it up to.
Well, maybe at the moment it could be, I think it's a bit, empathy is not meant, I think, to be the scratch on the vinyl all the time. But empathy is that moment of awareness of not self. So a culture of empathy could be, all these scratches, all these people who are helping us not to only focus on ourselves, focus on our individuality, focus on me, I, we need. So I guess, we could be scratches.
Okay.
Altogether.
So it's really about seeing others, not just kind of inward focus on your own self and what's going on inside yourself, but really opening yourself to others then is what you're kind of talking about.
Yeah.
So the opposite of that is just, it kind of creating a kind of a dualism here. One is seeing others, and the opposite of empathy would be just focusing on yourself then? That's what the...
Yes, that's what the dualism would be. And I'm not against focusing on yourself, because I think focusing on yourself is also part of empathy. So there's no problem with just a focus on yourself. But if there's only a focus on yourself, then there's no openness towards others. And we need that openness towards others. And it brings us a lot, being open to others brings us perspectives that we haven't seen, brings us feelings that we don't know for ourselves, brings us personality characteristics that we don't possess. So it's the, it's the, that tunnel-like shape, the end of that tunnel, that openness, that whole new, wow, there is a complete world there, which is not part of my personal experience. And even more, some of it is, which is also beautiful in empathy, because it helps us to recognize that we're not as unique as we think we are, that we're not as special as we think we are, that we also share a lot, that we're very interconnected and interdependent.
Yeah, I think that going out and that seeing, for me, that's the cornucopia of it. That if I'm just in, for me, it's like the opposite of empathy is like kind of that inward, but being like in a desert. It's like no landscape. It's hot, lonely, thirsty, and that opening is that richness that kind of changes the whole thing to this cornucopia, because we learn and experience and can share all those feelings and experiences of others. So, and it's maybe also the like in your picture there is that universe, right? You have the Milky Way, I think that is, right?
It is,
Yeah, that's a beautiful picture.
Yeah, so all these stars there in that Milky Way.
Yeah, we're kind of like open to seeing and experiencing all those other stars.
Or all these cacti in the desert.
Yeah. a lot of variety of cactuses, so can really appreciate all those. Yeah, my desert is more like the Sahara. You know, the Sahara, just sand, you know,
Only
dry,
sand.
only sand. Well, how do we
But
get
you,
there? Oh, sorry. What?
no, go ahead.
Oh, well, how do we do that then? So what are the ways of, you know, scratching the record and kind of seeing outside? What are the ways that we can create that culture?
Well, I think, you know, the most important part doesn't get a lot of attention, I think, in our discussions of empathy is what we already possess. So that you see now wonderful work and books by Frans de Waal or Jeremy Rifkin on empathy and on that even primates, you know, and not only primates, even rats and mice have certain levels of empathy. And I think we're very focused on, you know, others, as in, which is maybe also strange in this context, but we're focused on expecting empathy and compassion from others. And I think it's important that we start really with recognizing that we're not looking for something outside of ourselves. We already have empathy, we already have compassion, but we need to develop it within ourselves. We need to be able to recognize it within ourselves.
Mm. Yeah, so you're kind of like saying is that the empathy is already like a natural part of ourselves, and that somehow we need to just kind of tap into that and maybe create I don't know, maybe an awareness of it. I get a little kind of wondering about that, where when people say it's in ourselves, in the sense that, you know, with child development, you know, attachment theory and all that with child development, that as a child we need to be seen, we need to see ourselves reflected in others. And so I kind of wonder about for myself, there's like trying to understand the difference there between, you know, you hear a lot, well, it's all in ourselves. And then there's the other thing is there's something about being seen by someone else and having ourselves be kind of reflected in others. That it's almost like, I wonder if that's not a human need as well. You know what I mean? To be empathically seen by others.
But how does that contradict the fact that we have that possession in ourselves, that we possess already that ability to see? I already have the ability to see you.
Yeah.
So if you have a need to be seen by me, you know, if I develop my ability to see you, if I recognize my ability to see you, if I pay attention to your need to be seen, there it is.
Yeah, that's.
Or do I misunderstand you?
Yeah, it's kind of it's something I'm kind of like looking at myself, because I see, like in the United States, there was this human potential movement, and it was, you know, it was all about, you know, connect with yourself, you know, and it kind of was a kind of a reaction to like an authoritarian, you know, more authoritarian kind of, you know, the 60s, pre-60s kind of. And then people wanted kind of this freedom to, you know, because they felt kind of repressed. And it was like, well, you know, I have to feel what it is that I'm feeling and kind of get in touch with my own feelings. And for me, it seemed like it turned into a little bit of a narcissism. You know, it's like the empathy part about seeing others and being aware of others. It became people were more into the record, right? It's like, I'm going to go, I got to check. And there's something to that, because, you know, if you've been felt repressed and that you want to finally kind of, you know, have your voice, your kind of express. So, but it seems to have the capacity to turn into like narcissism too, you know. So I guess I see that, like, and there's little subtleties here that I'm trying to work out for myself, and it kind of, what you kind of just mentioned kind of like brought all that, you know, to the fore. So that's why I want to kind of explore this. and then from what I'm hearing, you know, about child development, is that as children, that, you know, you can tell a child, like, just go do this, and it's like more of this, you know, authoritarian, closed off, just obey
Hmm.
approach. But then you can also, that as children, that we need to be seen and have ourselves reflected back
Yeah.
empathically to really develop. So in that sense, we're kind of looking out of ourselves to others to see ourselves reflected back
Hmm.
in others. So, and it seemed, I'm just seeing that as maybe as something that's a need too, is, you know, social beings, we feel alone. If we're like totally in ourselves, there's a sense of loneliness. So
I agree. I
I'm trying to
agree.
tie that in with what you were saying, and how you kind of balance those two. You know, it's of just inner focus only and wanting to be seen by others.
Hmm. Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand where the problem lies in that.
Mm,
You know, because of course, I mean, all of us, not only as a child, we need to explore inwards, and
yeah.
we need to face inwards as well. We need to see ourselves, and we need to discover ourselves, and we need others to mirror what we're doing, what we're expressing, so that we can learn. So there's definitely modeling going on, I think, in all stages of life. But still, I don't understand why it would conflict with my initial saying that these qualities of being passionate and being empathic are already rooted in us.
Oh, I see. Uh-huh. You're
Yeah.
saying biologically we're wired for empathy to empathize, you know, through maybe mirror neurons or whatever. It's just a
Yes.
biological. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I
Okay, that's what
meant.
you're saying.
Yeah. And I guess also psychologically, because as you say, when you're in that early stage of life and you need that reflection from others, you also have that ability to watch others, to really,
Hmm.
observe your own reflection in the behavior of others. So even there, I would say there is already a wire, a cognitive or emotional, wire inside us to be able to do that. Apparently we have the need to do that. We have to reach out to reflect back.
Yeah. Yeah, or we feel kind of disconnected or lonely or
Yeah.
yeah. So, so you're saying to build a culture of empathy, the first thing is to realize that we are kind of like wired for empathy, that biologically we're wired, and kind of have that sense of that awareness and that understanding is like maybe the
Yes, I
first
think
step.
so. Yeah, because we're living in an age, in a time where, competition is the thing. And there's a lot of people who believe that we're only egocentric, we're only moving inwards on that vinyl. Whatever we do, it is because there's something in it for us. And our society is also really promoting that type of behavior economically, all the money going on. You see it everywhere. But there's the other side of the human being, which is okay, yes, we are in for competition. Yes, we want to survive. Yes, there's all that. But there's not only that. And nobody says that it's only through competition that we can survive. People like Frans de Waal, they really show you there's also another side. There's cooperation, which makes us survive. And it's important too. Why don't we pay more attention to that? The same in psychology. We're paying 60 years of research on disorders, on mental illnesses,
Uh,
on what's wrong. But what's right with the human mind? How does a normal human mind function? How do we practice these things like empathy and compassion for others? How do we help each other? Because in the end, we're all depending on each other, There's no more. And I think that is an awareness that is growing now, that we do depend on each other. We might not agree, but we still depend.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, with Jeremy Rifkin, he wrote about that as well, about how, science and philosophy and academic world has said everybody's in it for themselves, greedy and selfish, and this is the way the world works. And it's like, well, that might be part of it. We have maybe that capacity, but there's also this other capacity that we have for empathy and compassion.
Yeah.
And so the question is, so we start with just an awareness that that's the situation. And then it's like, well, how do we nurture that quality of compassion? And when I talked to Marco Iacobone, I asked him this question too. And he felt that just like you were saying, that very consciousness that we are wired for empathy and, how it works, he felt just that knowledge, like you're saying, is just a big step in promoting empathy.
I think so too, because it gives us a more balanced self-image on a societal level, but also on an individual level. There's a more balanced self-image. There's not only us being inherently evil. Mm-hmm. There's also us being inherently caring. Nobody survives without the care of somebody else. There's the mother, and if there's not the mother, there's others who care for you when you really can't do anything yet. So that caring capacity, it's there. And we need to explore it more, I think. We need to understand and experience that this is also part of us as a human being.
Yeah. Well, I see it kind of, sometimes I go into a group, like if there's a group of people and it's kind of like very competitive and you kind of, maybe I'll feel like excluded or something until you're kind of one of the in group. Mm-hmm. So it seems to me that in society that we're kind of like influenced by the culture itself. If the rules of the culture are everybody's in it for themselves and everybody's kind of saying that everybody kind of adapts to that competitive kind of a model.
Yeah.
And then you go into another group and it's like, oh, hi, welcome, and I can feel really included and part of the community and be heard and seen and, interact. So it seems like the basic culture influences how people kind of come into it. So what we're saying is, well, science is now saying that, that scientifically, we can show that that's part of our nature is to have we have that capacity. And so it's like, how do we create a culture that's kind of like supportive of of those qualities, and.
Well, once that awareness really starts growing, we can start practicing. Once we are aware, oh, wait a minute, I have it too. Where is it? Let's explore it. Then we can start practicing it also. And I think empathy is is happening on an individual level. It's between you and me, or it's between you and two others. But it's not, empathy is not a group thing. Empathy is not happening as a group. Empathy is happening between individuals. So I think there's a lot of practice, and there's already quite some methods also out there. And I think we should discover which methods work for us. If you're a very cognitive-based person, go for cognitive methods and try to develop that cognitive empathy, that perspective taking. If you're a more heart-based person, go for other type of methods. There's beautiful contemplative methods from Tibetan Buddhism, but also from Christianity. Meditations on loving kindness, on reaching out towards others. So, and you know better than me. You've been speaking with so many people out there already. There's beautiful things being built on developing that capacity, but it's our own responsibility to do that. And I think in terms of behavioral influence, there is a very strong tendency that when you come in a group where everything is competition and everything is against and everybody is against each other, if you move with your behavior towards cooperation, towards working together on an individual level between people, so if I invite you to be together with me, you move along. And I think that is maybe also showing just how much we need to be together, how much we need that connectedness together, because it's an automatic behavior. In psychology, we teach people, if you want to move somebody out of that grrr atmosphere, get together. Emphasize the togetherness of whatever you're doing with each other, and you'll create a whole new openness towards, oh, that's interesting, let's explore. And that's where creativity comes up as well. So on a societal level, taking your own individual responsibility and the pleasure of it, because, hey, it's so pleasurable to be pleasant with people, I can't emphasize it enough. It's wonderful. So also experiencing the pleasure of doing that and keeping that in mind in your contacts with others.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, it's like the one thing I look at is the intention. It's like, why do we want a culture of empathy? Why would we even want it? What would be the intention? And I keep coming back to what you're just saying about the pleasure of it. It feels so good. It feels relaxing. It feels creative. It feels nurturing. It feels fulfilling. So that's kind of like, oh, I want more of that,
Exactly. Well, that's my experience too, I was so happy that I could do a PhD on empathy and not on anger or jealousy or, it's wonderful because the more you're working with it, on it, and within yourself, the more you feel the quality that it has, the inherent quality and the love and the, I'm a hippie.
The truth is coming out.
Yeah, no, I think it's true. You're right. And I hope that experience, that people also share that experience with each other.
Yeah. Well, was there a moment in your life where you kind of discovered the power of empathy and compassion? Was it like one of those, aha moments, blinding, flashing lights, or was it kind of a slower, gradual kind of experience?
Yeah, I think for me it was more a slower, gradual experience because. You could say that I started with it when I started studying it, but I'm not sure if that's really the case. As you might also know about, state empathy, which is the empathy within a certain situation, the instant empathy, and what we call trait empathy, the more empathic personality types. So maybe I've always been really interested in leaning towards that, but it was definitely gradual. But I had some experiences where I felt that empathy has been helping a lot in dealing with situations, dealing with other people. But yeah, no, it's gradual. And I'm not sure if I chose empathy or, if
Or it
empathy
chose you.
chose me. Yeah.
Well, what are some of those stories? What happened? What were it sounds like there was a couple of like more peak experiences.
Yeah, well, yeah. So one experience in my life which has been quite troublesome is I lost a sister when I was 19 years old, and my sister was murdered.
Oh, wow.
And she was murdered by a friend of hers and a colleague of mine, and so it was somebody quite close to us. She was 24, I was 19, so your world turns around. It's really a life experience type of thing. But already there, once we heard who the suspect was in that murder, which was quite fast after she had died, revenge was not really the thing that resonated with me. And I was very much constantly into that. We have a great loss, and that's been growing over the years. We have a terrible loss, and I'll miss her for the rest of my life. And I wonder always, how would it have been if she would have been there? But imagine to be the one killing her and living with that for the rest of your life. And it was, imagine how that would be for you. Imagine how it would eat you from the inside. Especially if you go to jail and then you get psychological treatment, and it's not addressing what you have done. It's a revenge type of sentence, right? It's not helping you in going on, and then you'll get out again, because here in the Netherlands we don't do death sentence, and we don't do endless years of prison, right? And that perspective has been helping me a lot in forgiving and accepting what has happened. We can't turn back, and I wish him all the best.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so you really put yourself in his shoes then, kind of saying, thought like, hey, what was going on for you? And have you developed reconnected
with him?
Uh-huh.
No, I think he's not interested.
Oh, wow.
No.
But
I've always said I'm open to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
If he would want to, I definitely would be open to it, because it would be healing probably for all of us. And I believe in that. That's why I like also in these restorative circles, this nonviolent communication, Marshall Rosenberg's approach. There's a lot of healing going on in that type of experience together. And I think it's much more mentally healthy to get into that than to be angry and fearful for the rest of your life. Life is too beautiful for that.
Yeah.
It
So what you're really kind of addressing here is that whole restorative justice or restorative empathy process, where instead of putting it in the courts where it's just punishment and kind of a competitive legal system, that it's about restoring connection between people, or as much as possible.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful approach, and as I said, I think it's a very healing approach as well. And same thing, it might not work for everyone, it might not be suitable for everyone, but I'm not working with it, but what I hear from the people around me, it looks like a very interesting healing quality.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're almost like doing it almost naturally, with just from yourself, from your own way of being, kind of going through some of the process of that.
Yeah, I guess I always say, when people say, oh, wow, but that's beautiful. And I think, well, it might be, but it came to me. I've just been lucky.
Were your parents that way? Do you feel like you kind of learned it? They were just very empathic, compassionate people. How did that spark kind of get really going in you?
Yeah. Well, I come from a big family, as in big for standards nowadays. So it's five kids now, and parents have been separating, remarrying, and so all in all, we're with a whole bunch. And I think maybe, I'm not sure about that, but maybe, growing up like that in small groups has been part of promoting that attitude.
Mm-hmm. So it's just being around all those people and interacting, and people caring about you caring about them, just kind of embodied it. Oh, that's nice.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Because I just had a family weekend, was fun. I talked about it with one of my brothers, and we said, we some trouble with our family. Yeah, we did. And then, but then we also said, but there's also a very strong resilience there. Whatever happens, we're bouncing back from it, and we love each other in the end, and we work for that as well. We forgive, and we're careful with each other. At least we try to be. Yeah.
So were there other kind of peak experiences like that where you kind of had something about empathy, experiences about it?
Well, I'm sure there's many, but not something jumping up straight.
Oh, okay.
But I do see it when I train with people, simple conversation skills, trying to listen to somebody else and to really hear what the other is saying without projecting on it, without having your own mental vinyl playing and getting distracted from what the other is saying. I see it very often with people with whom I'm training, that they have this sort of aha experience, sort of, oh, I heard much more out of you than I ever expected to hear from you. You've been saying much more than I initially, than what I've been initially listening to. So I guess that's, that is the type of experience that resonates with me.
Hmm. Well, I have one that just kind of came to me. It's like as we go along, there's these peak experiences, like you were just saying, those aha moments. And one that I had was I was trying to explain something to someone. It was actually in a workshop. And I felt so frustrated because they didn't seem to get it.
Yeah.
And then I just said, could you, and I could feel kind of the stress, it's like, it's a felt experience, the frustration, and then it was like, it's like I said, could you just reflect what you hear me say, and then they just said it and they reflected it. It was almost like a flood, this opening, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. I can ask for a reflection on what it is that's going on for me. And it has this magic of just opening this door. And it's like suddenly I just felt this connection with this person. I felt kind of like understood. And it was like just for asking that reflection. So anyway, that was like a real...
It's beautiful. Huh?
Yeah, it was a great experience just to have that realization. So
yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. So what else do you think, are you feeling about the, how do we promote empathy? What are other things?
I think Mary Gordon is her name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Roots of Empathy.
Yeah. Roots of Empathy. I think it's very important to pay attention to empathy within the schools at a young age. I think she's also doing beautiful work there to, as we say, if it is inherent to us, if it's already there, the younger we learn to recognize it, the younger we learn to play with it and to develop it and to work with it, the more automatic it becomes. Neuroplasticity is just, we're developing mental habits, which will keep on going later in life. So I think it's important to reach out to the youngsters and also the adolescents, because I work with students, and I love in working with students is that there's still that real purity in them. When they get angry at you because they find that you're treating them unfairly, you'll see the anger, and it's a pure thing. And the other way around too, I find that in that purity is also that receptiveness to recognizing or some experiential knowledge of, the mental patterns that I'm trying to explain them as a psychologist. I can talk, but in the end, you need to do more than just understand it. You need to find it in yourself. And that's with students, beautiful to see that they have that ability. I think you can also see, do you know that program Challenge Day?
No.
It's also an American initiative, but I don't know where it's coming from. But they do that within schools. They sort of, maybe it's an anti-bullying program, I'm not sure. But it's also this beautiful day, challenge day, where they start, sharing very small things together, and then more and more within the group, sharing bigger things and recognizing, like they have this game called Cross the Line, and everybody is on one side of the line, and you start asking a question or saying, everybody who's ever felt alone, cross the line. And then you see groups of kids crossing that line to the other side, and you see the others, recognizing, oh, great, I'm not the only one who feels alone in here. That type of experience. I think, it's good to really pay attention to that on a younger age. And then, I don't believe you have to stop learning. There's no excuse being 65, keep on going.
Keep learning in general, or keep learning about empathy and compassion, or both?
Well, both, I think. But especially in an older age, when you see people usually getting a bit softer, reflecting on their lives and on what they've been doing, that might also be a beautiful moment to work with empathy and compassion, and to help the elderly to function also in society with these qualities.
Yeah. For some reason, when you're talking about the elderly, you talked about Mary Gordon. For her, it was, she said there was an epidemic, at least here she felt in North America, of loneliness among the elderly. And I could feel she was just very pained by that, that something needs to be done about that. People just often, convalescent homes or kind of by themselves, and just the pain that people are feeling, and that we need to do something about that in society.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we definitely need to, and we've got great examples also of how things could be different. In Asia, in Africa, where the cultures are really different, taking care of the elderly more, and we're getting more and more elderly. At least here in Europe, we're getting more and more and more elderly, and we all deserve a purpose in life at every stage of life, not only being useful for the economy.
Yeah, it's for the competition. Well, that's kind of what I'm seeing is if we have like the intention and the vision of a culture of empathy and compassion, then the social structures start shifting, to start manifesting those values more. And it sounds like you're saying, we need that through all grades. The Mary Gordon's program starting right there in very early age, and the modeling of empathy by a mother and child, kind of modeling the connection, and the circle process of the children sitting around in a circle and dialoguing about what they're seeing. And then there's so many different processes out there, and they seem to be a little in a lot of different places, but kind of bringing them together into a systematic, curriculum around, a conscious curriculum around promoting empathy within society. I think that's kind of where we're at. And there's the Ashoka initiative where they're starting to organize around actually doing that in the schools. So kind of hopeful about that.
Yeah, and that's another reason why we need you, because you're doing all this work. You're bringing it all together on the internet. And I think it's a very powerful voice, We need to get that word out. We need to spread the word. Without, I'm not being evangelical, or everybody can do as he like, but I do think that people should have the possibility to be exposed to it.
Actually, I believe in evangelical empathy.
You go for it,
I've been thinking about, I play with these terms, and I actually grew up in an evangelical Baptist, family. I thought, and so, they're very successful. Evangelicals are successful in getting the word out because it's like, it's not just doing it yourself. It's like, everybody's got to believe this.
Yeah, but then that's the thing. I mean, that's when we come back to the vinyl again, because I said it was a scratch. Maybe the scratch is not the good metaphor, but we work with it for now.
Yeah, we'll keep developing it.
But it's the outwards, the inwards out.
Yeah.
A part of empathy, you know. I can tell you to be empathic, but what do you care? So yeah, evangelical, I'm not sure, but if you're convincing, maybe.
Yeah. Well, there's it's like, even maybe you're trying to convince someone, but if you can model it, right? If you can show it, and you can empathize, it's not just about conceptually, agreeing to it. It's about the experience of it. And it sounds like what you're really talking about is the inward outward is, I think, is the holding of everyone's humanity. It's like holding your own as well as everyone else, and kind of developing that awareness where, okay, what's going on for me, that I'm not suppressing myself. Self-sacrifice I don't think is really part of empathy. It's like a misunderstanding of empathy, because everybody's feelings and values and humanity and needs are to kind of hold
part
those, are part of it.
Yes, you're right. You're right. That's why I say that interconnectedness. It's, of course, you have a right to be. It's not about focusing on others and losing touch of yourself. It would be probably very, very problematic. I think that's where you get all this compassion, burnout, stress within the caring communities, because you're there and you're part of it, but you're part of it, So take yourself and bring it into the bigger culture, the bigger group, the bigger humanity.
Yeah, kind of hold your own needs as well as others.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why that self-compassion, I think, is also doing wonders in the empathic work, because you need that self-compassion, and in being able to forgive others, I guess you also need to be able to forgive yourself.
Yeah, kind of removing. Well, there's one other part was that I wanted to kind of get into was the definition of empathy, that we had talked about doing a project around that. There's still a lot of confusion and different ways that the word empathy is used, and you and I actually wanted to kind of do a project around that, to kind of invite others to talk about it, to start kind of exploring it, and I just interviewed Dan Batson, about his, understanding of empathy. And I've gotten I just was having a conversation with someone about compassion, and she was really on my case. Like, I don't like the way you're using the word compassion, and empathy. It's like you're misusing the word, and you should use it this way, and
didn't you tell her, empathize with me? Come on.
Yeah, that's it. I kept trying to say that, but it wasn't kind of getting through. It's like people get kind of get attached to definitions and and meanings, and when I talked to Paul Ekman about this too, he's talked with the Dalai Lama about compassion, and he said, well, to understand compassion, you have to go through empathy. And he said, it's a real mess. It's a morass, It's I hated going into it because it's so confusing, and that's for, him.
Well, in my thesis, I've been writing a part of a chapter about that, distinguishing empathy from sympathy, from tenderness, from emotional contagion, from distress and from compassion. So if you feel like I could send you that little piece, but I think especially in science, I on the one hand I agree with Dan Batson, because he says as long as you're precise on what you mean, it doesn't matter that much. That we have so many different definitions of it. But I think in terms of bringing it to a wider public, we definitely need to be more precise, because journalists trying to compare one study with the other, where empathy is measured in completely different ways, it looks nice, it might be a coherent story, but it might not be talking about the same concept at all. So I think it would be wonderful to really get people together and give it a new initiative on what do we know, what have we gathered so far, how could we integrate it into something which is workable, not only for the academics, the scientific community.
Yeah, so I think that'll be kind of our next, our dialogue is maybe kind of starting. This is a little bit of an intro. I talked to Marco Iacoboni, and we kind of talked about this same thing. He said, what's really needed is for some scholar to tie all the pieces. It's like, for him, the way he was saying, he felt that all these definitions were kind of like different perspectives on the same thing, and it's like, how do you tie them all together into a whole? So it's not like there was one that was wrong or one that was right, but that they're like different perspectives, and it's the integration of that is kind of that's what's needed. Which I thought was a nice way of looking at it.
Definitely, yeah, it would be nice. Well, we're just gonna do that. Yeah. We've got work.
Yeah, we've got work. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a real, I just saw there was a conference in Denver, with the mindfulness community, and they had one of the workshops was on empathy, and it was, they were talking about the relationship of empathy to compassion, and then the person, Sharon something, or I can't remember her name. Salzberg. She was saying, well, empathy will lead to burnout because it has judgment, it has fixing, it has all these, and all these are all blocks to empathy. I'm saying, what are you saying? This is not what empathy is. It's like, I was like, I can't believe this. I'm going to, get her on on one of these calls and get together and talk about this, because this is not
let's do it.
Yeah, okay, we'll get her.
Especially with Sharon Salzberg, because we met also in 2007, and that I had a poster presentation at the Mind and Life Institute, and then I discussed it with her also, and she said to me, "Oh, that's interesting. You're on a good track trying to compare empathy and compassion. That's very interesting. Keep on going with that."
Oh, really?
So I'm sure she would be. Yeah, it would be nice. Would be nice.
Okay, great. Well, I think we're set for our next project, and I'm so glad. I just enjoyed chatting with you so much too. I'm glad we finally got. It was really hard to kind of finally get you, but now that I've kind of got this connection going, I'm glad about it.
Thank you. Me too. It's lovely. But I do expect you with your Obama intros all the time that once the definition is out there, you're going to bring it to politics for us, no?
Yeah, I want to create it. I have the empathy party movement.
Empathy party movement?
No, empathy, yeah. I even have it on the website. What am I calling it? Yeah, the empathy party. So it's like it's not progressive, it's not conservative. It's like a third movement to be like mediators between the two.
That's nice. So, not middle ground, but mediators. Yeah. That is nice.
So it's not like it's standing for empathy, and we need to transform the political system to be based on empathy. So you're welcome to join. We'll make it an international party. Well, this is great. We go to the
World Bank, no?
Yeah, we'll change them too. So we'll evangelize them, right? It's an evangelical party.
Yeah. Yeah, Edwin, let's do that.
Yeah. Well, I kind of use the approach that I can't remember his name right now, but it's kind of like you just create these ideas and you throw them, you see what kind of sticks and what works, you know? So it's kind of fun to just keep creating things and see what kind of works. So we'll...
Anarchist style.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Creative style. It's the creativity, I think. Yeah.
Sure.
I have talked to anarchists. I mean, this is a whole nother topic, and it's kind of the sense that we have the social structure, and it's like it's not empathic. And how do we change that system? The anarchists that I talked to here at our Occupy, you know, demonstrations, they said we got to blow it up, you know, and that empathy will naturally grow out of that, you know, chaos. That's kind of like.
But how does he propose to blow it up then?
I don't know, throw stones or I don't know, whatever. You know,
no, because I agree. You know, we should blow it up, but in an empathic way.
Yeah. Well, that's the kind of other thing we could talk about is the strategies of how do you, you know, I think we have to use empathic means for empathic ends. So
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. So if anybody's watching this, we're very empathic and don't believe in violence.
Join us.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, Lily, this has been great. I'm just so glad we connected, and we'll maybe by email set our next call for talking about the definitions. I think that would be really good.
Lovely, lovely. It's a pleasure, Edwin. And really, you're doing a wonderful job here. I'm enjoying reading and watching all your interviews. And so kudos for you.
Okay. And kudos to you for working on this on LinkedIn and all the ways that you're doing it with your training.
Yeah. People, come to LinkedIn. LinkedIn Empathy Group and the LinkedIn Charter for Compassion Group. I'm the owner of both groups. And it's a beautiful environment where we really try to, you know, on a professional level, try to progress with each other in our understanding of what empathy is and what compassion is. So I hope that people will join us there and give us your opinions or your experiences, and let's move forward together.
Yeah, I just showed it on the screen, so it just popped up so people can see it there. So, okay, then look forward to seeing you next time.
We will.
Until then.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye, Lily.
See the world through other people's eyes. Now, empathy is a quality of character that can change the world.